Alright, I've got the last components besides the tubes on the board, and I'm going to go ahead and solder those on. Okay, those look straight. This is something I was trying to verify there. And also trying to verify that these pins are straight. And that looks good. And now we can go ahead and solder on the top ones. Alright, that looks like we've got it built. We just need to trim it. We'll push this out of the way. This is one of the reasons you need to wear safety glasses or some type of good glasses while you're working on these. Little pieces can go flying. The last thing we want is for it to go in our eye. Alright, that all looks good. So, this is done with the exception of mounting the tubes, the fluorescent displays. So, the next thing we need to do is to test this, and let me grab a few things so that we can do that. The first thing we need to do is put the battery in. So this is just our timekeeping battery. Most of these go in this way, so let's give that a go. Well, that's not working like I thought it would. Let me try it like this. There we go. Okay, I think that's in the right way. It looks nice and flat. So, the very next thing to do is to power it up. Well, I'm going to take it that that's a good sign. The LEDs are going through, and we wouldn't be getting that if we had no logic at all. Let's go ahead and try the remote. Okay, we can turn it off. We can turn it on. That is the main thing we want to make sure that we can do. All right. So, it appears to be working. So the next thing is to put the fluorescent display tubes on it. So I'll get everything ready for that, and we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, it is time to mount the fluorescent tubes. Now, as you can see, I've already mounted one. I did that because I wanted to go through the whole procedure at least once before I did it with you. I've actually never worked with this type of tube before, so I wanted to make sure I had it all down. But anyways, I'll walk you through putting one on. Once I've done that, you can kind of replay that if you need to more than once if you want to go through, but what I'll do then is go ahead and finish it up and put the rest on. Okay, so let's kind of go through the steps. I'm going to put this up on the case, I think, so you can see it a little bit better. There. Yeah. Okay. So, let's kind of go through those steps together. So there are 2 spacers for each one of these. Now the spacers have this paper on them, and what we're going to need to do is go ahead and remove that paper. So to get that paper off, you can try it with your fingernail. I used it with my clippers like this, my nippers, and then went ahead and peeled it back. But you'll need to do that and also make sure that the holes are clear. Once you've done that, we can go ahead and put them, and we'll look at how it's going to be installed. I'm going to turn this the other way on there so that we put this the right way, and that's like this. There is an index where effectively a missing pin that we're going to use to get that on there so that everything connects correctly. So what we do is we take a couple of spare leads and poke them down through the holes. Like that. This is because we're trying to get those holes to line up. Then we'll get a little bit of tape. If you had thinner tape, which I think I may actually have some of, this might work a little bit better, but this will be fine. We'll tear a thin piece, hold these even with those wires in there so that all the holes will line up, and then we'll wrap it with the tape. One of my wires fell out, but I think I've already started it up. There goes the other one. So I'll double check that the wires still go through. They do. And this is also a way I can make sure that all these holes are clear. That there was a little bit of that paper or tape or who knows what else could be in there. That one is giving me a little trouble. Let me try pushing it through from the other side. There is something in there. That's the only explanation for why that's being so hard. There we go. Well, something actually popped out. So I think in manufacture that there was something still stuck in there. Well, I'm glad we discovered that before we tried to put the tube in there. Alright, so now the next step of prepping the tool. Let me bring some light over here. So we need to get these leads as straight as we can. That's going to make everything work a little bit easier for us. And actually getting all these leads to start at the same time is pretty hard. And there's a trick which is illustrated really well in the company's build video. And in fact, they give you a little chart for doing what I'm going to do. I'm going to freehand it. I would recommend, if you've never done this before, that you use their little chart. So the trick is each lead I'm going to take a little bit off of more than the last one. And they recommend about 1/10 of an inch. That sounds about right. The amount isn't that critical. What's critical is that we don't make them too short. That could be really bad. So whatever you do, you want to make sure that you end up with something that is still in the neighborhood of 3/4 of an inch, or you're going to have real problems. And I might actually be taking too much off. I'm getting a little nervous about that. So I'm going to reduce the amount that I'm taking off. A little bit. Yeah. There we go. So now it's kind of going down in a spiral. And again, I'm going to take this and make sure that this lines up with the holes in the circuit board. And that looks good. I'm going to align the notch, which is the missing bit up here, which is that index is right here. And that's where I'm going to start. So I put the longest lead in first, and then I just kind of walk it around starting the next one. Except this hole's giving me trouble, kind of like that other one did. So the thing to do there is to clear it out. There we go. Let's get back into action here. Again, I'm using that index as my starting point. There we go. Alright, now we'll go for the third one. Pull it back just a little bit. Being a little stubborn. See if we can give it just a little bit of encouragement to go in there. Well, there's something going on with that one, so I'm going to go ahead and yeah, that's odd because I went through them all ahead of time, but it sure is giving me trouble now. Yeah, I think I have just got one that wasn't drilled out perfectly. There. Yeah, it's a little tiny sliver of plastic that came out. Just like with the other one. So, don't fret if that happens to you. You just have to go back and clean out the hole. Okay. We just keep going, moving on to the next one, which is going to be the next longer one. As we go around. You end up with an extra hole or not enough holes, then something went wrong along the way. You need to kind of backtrack in that case. So now I'm inspecting it, making sure I've got the gap where I expect it, and that everything is in its hole. Then I'm going to gently slide that spacer on. Once I've got that on there, it's time to put it on the circuit board. Now, I learned from last time I did this, it is easier to take the tape off at this step. So these plastic spacers are designed to fit right over the multicolor LED that's on the board. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the board that I just did with the spacers. We're going to put the leads in order of their length. Again, making sure that I have got the index in the right place. Oh, one of my leads is not where I would like it to be. There we go. Like I said, just take your time. Don't get stressed if it's not going exactly the way you had hoped the first time. And if all goes well, they should all be in. You can verify on the back side that they all went through. Now, these spacers help keep these straight, but I really was a little bit worried. I wanted to make sure that they get in there perfectly straight. So I went ahead and I made a jig to hold the tube perfectly straight relative to the circuit board. So I can just snap that on. I can gently push up on the tube and make sure that it's seated. And really all I have to make sure is that this is centered kind of left to right. And one of the ways you can tell that is by how the leads move. But that looks good. And then again, this will hold it perfectly straight. You want to give a gentle push up. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do the old trick of pushing it up from the bottom. And I just want to double check it. Yep, that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead, put my jig back on. And just solder the rest. All right, we should be able to just slide the jig off. Now I've got two perfectly straight. If anybody would like the 3D files for that, please just reach out to me with a comment and I'll make sure I get you a link to that. But yeah, so now I just need to do 4 more of those and this part of the circuit will be complete, and then we just test it and put it in the housing. So sounds good to me. Let me go ahead and do that. The video is already going to be really long, so let me do that and I'll come back and we'll do the next part. All right, I've got the whole circuit built. Now we just need to do a power on test and we'll see what we get. Well, you can see that better than me. Let me flip it around so I can see too. Oh, yep, we've got numbers. And we can see our little LEDs lighting up down below. So I'll play with the settings and I'll get the clock set. But let's go ahead and finish up the assembly so we can say we have a complete project. Alright, we'll put this aside for just a second. So this is the top and this is the bottom that we're going to be connecting it to. And let's grab our last hardware. Alright. There we go. Alright, so we have a series of little spacers and screws. I am pretty sure how this goes. So let's go ahead and put that together. So this is the bottom. Our circuit card is going to fit. Let's see where that hole is. Yep, it fits right there. So we've got more of this paper to remove. Here we go, got a start on it. And the bottom as well. So I am pretty sure that the way that this is supposed to work, so that the bottom matches the top, that we put so I'm pretty sure these little spacers come up with one of these hex nuts because they used hex nuts on the top. So I'm assuming they want to go with the same look. Alright. And I'll bet you that somewhere in our hardware are some little rubber feet to put on here. If there isn't, I'll just put my own on. And we don't want that board, it's got a lot of load on it. We don't want it moving around. So that's why they put one in the middle. We don't want it to bow. Alright. Just about got the bottom ready here. And then we'll move on to the top. And all right. Now, the only thing I'm wondering, I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be a little hard. This is the places where those jacks come out. So we may want to fit that in there first. Yeah, like that. And sort of lower it. Well, it didn't work quite as well as I hoped, but there we go. So it looks like it is sitting on those now. So let's get a screwdriver. Actually, I think we might want this one. Well, my idea of putting that on first may not be a great idea after all. Let's go ahead and Typically when you're tightening screws like this, you don't put your finish tighten until you've got them all at least started. And we could crack our board if we tighten these too much, so that we just want them snug. Just so the board is compressed a little, and they should stay in place. Well, now let's see if we can put this over here. Yeah, we just had to give it a little wiggle, and it's in position. So that leaves the top. Right. And we'll get it off the top too. A little piece over here. All right. Huh. A little imperfection in there, but I don't think I mind that. So this is going to go like this, and those are going to drop in. But before we do that, we probably ought to give them a little tight. And again, this acrylic or Lexan, whatever it is, we can over tighten that too. We need to be careful. Okay, so I see one minor issue. This ambient light sensor is not lining up, and we might be able to encourage it. There we go. Yeah, and that turned out very flush. This is the one for picking it up from the remote, and that looks good. Now we just need to put the final touch on our sandwich here. Put the ones in from the bottom. Oops. Too many tools. One of these was trying to elude me, but we found it. All right. Now that is all together, I'm going to look through. I still have a few bags of hardware over here that came with the kit. And I want to double check if there were any rubber feet that came with it. Because if there aren't, I'll put my own on. I don't see any. No big deal. I kind of want to have rubber feet on the bottom of that. Alright, so now let's power it up. Build. And we have our display. Yep. Looks good. All right. I won't go through all the remote settings with you, but that would be the next step. We would need to set the time. And I assume we use our handy dandy remote for that. Yep, I see a button here for date, alarm, temperature, and set. So I'll go ahead and get that set. One of the features of this is that the company that produces it has both a temperature sensor. This will probably look easier to see from the ceiling camera. That plugs in here if you want to know the temperature, and a GPS receiver that plugs in here, and I assume that's to set the time. The base kit didn't come with either of those two things, but not to worry, you could order those. Alright, I think that's great. I think it turned out quite nice. This is going to be a nice addition to my office, and that sounds great. So, if you're building one of these and you have questions, you want to reach out, please leave me a message. I'll be happy to help you out any way I can. And in fact, I'm running a little deal. If anybody who leaves a message, I'm going to pick one message a week. I actually have a bunch of stickers and tattoos and pins and other stuff that I can send out. And so what I'm going to do is put together a little package. Leave me a nice comment, and I'll send you out a little package in the mail with some cool things, coasters, and all kinds of stuff. All right, so I'll pick one person kind of that left a nice comment per week, and that'll be great. So if you found this useful, please go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in our next video.